Hi, this is Fish and welcome to Fish Picks. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pocket Pick, a constant companion picking tool just released by Martin Newton in collaboration with John Falle. So let's get into it. Martin Newton and I have been in contact with each other for a while now, and he's offered me some really helpful guidance as I've been building this channel. It was he, for example, who invited me to look at the way I was gripping my tools, which led me to research and then release episode 15, which was well received by the community at large. Martin's enjoyed a successful career in the police force as a specialist surveillance and covert entry operative. He then went on to run Safe Ventures, a company which produces tools and training for opening safes and high-end security systems, as well as running specialist covert entry training courses. Martin's maintained a long-term interest in locksport, but he also trains government agencies on both sides of the Atlantic, and he's therefore tended to keep a somewhat low profile. So it's a real privilege that he's agreed to let me talk a little about his contribution to lockpicking and to introduce the Pocket Pick, which has been a passion project of his over the last year. When the pandemic began a little over a year ago, Martin, like many of us, had to adapt to lockdown conditions and decided to use the time to realise an ambition and produce a compact but functional picking tool that could be attached to a keychain and be deployed in emergency situations. To that end, he reached out to John Falle, a friend with whom he has collaborated on various projects for over 30 years. John also has a rich pedigree, having served in the Royal Marines before going on to found Falle Safe Securities, while also consulting with various government agencies. Like Martin, John seems to be one of those figures who you only really know about if you rub shoulders with other professionals like him. So if it weren't for COVID-19, none of us would probably be any the wiser about these two men and the degree to which they have helped advance non-destructive entry techniques over the last few decades. But the virus did happen, and Martin and John found themselves with time on their hands and with whirring brains which were used to problem solving on behalf of their clients but without anything to occupy them, and so the seeds of the Pocket Pick were planted. The idea of an everyday carry lockpick multi-tool is not new. The first models that were commercially available go back at least as far as the 1990s, and today you can find various types. Multi-Pick offer their jackknife range, for example, and Covert Instruments, championed by the lockpicking lawyer, sell their Covert Companion. But all of these tools have limitations in that, just like the Swiss Army knife, the more tools they contain, the bulkier the unit tends to become. And more importantly, most are hinged, which means that they can be unstable and produce unwanted movement during the picking process. Now, Martin and John had already got the design and machining skills needed to produce high-end tools. During their 30-year-long collaboration, they've brought a range of products to market which have been designed to solve specific problems, accepting that the R&D prototyping costs is part of the necessary price of innovation. From shimwire decoders to curtain picks, a pin and cam tool used to open the notorious Chubb 114, to the Ford Tibby disc detainer pick, they've always designed their products with functionality in mind, and the results speak for themselves. Indeed, in 2005, they were both inaugurated into the Safe and Vault Technicians Association Hall of Fame for services rendered to the community. They're used to producing specialist tools with a high price point, which have to work in the field first time, every time. But the Pocket Pick was a chance for them to have a bit of fun designing something for the wider community whilst also solving a more personal frustration. Martin told me of several occasions where he's had need for a basic set of picks whilst being away from his workshop and tools. We've all no doubt had experiences like his. A door swings shut with the keys on the inside of the flat you're helping your daughter to move out from. A car park on an industrial estate you've parked in has shut early. There's no one on site and the barrier has been padlocked, preventing you from being able to drive home. Now, I know that this is touching on a sensitive topic as far as locksport is concerned. There are certain rules that we champion in order to protect the legality of our craft. We don't encourage anyone to pick a lock that's in use or a lock that does not belong to us. And these are sound principles which I abide by in my own practice. The laws surrounding picking and the carrying of lock-picking tools in public varies widely around the world, and I'm not looking to open a can of comment worms here. Suffice it to say that I'm with Martin in thinking about this tool and knife carry in the same way. I consider myself as an autonomous, law-abiding citizen, but I'd rather have a tool and not need it than need it and not have it. I'm not going to explore this topic in more depth here. I'll no doubt return to the legality of lockpicking and its intersection with locksport again at some point, but this episode is a review of this tool rather than a defence of its deployment, so I hope you'll understand if that remains my focus. I just wanted to be thorough in explaining the origins of the tool that I've been asked to take a look at. And it looks great. My first impression of the pocket pick is that it's compact, light, and really nicely finished. The body of the tool is manufactured from aircraft-grade aluminium. That's aluminium, not aluminum. And the picks themselves are crafted from a carbide-cemented steel, which is used in knife making, ensuring that they are strong despite their relatively narrow width, because as you can see, they taper from 1.8 millimeters to just 1.3 millimeters at the tip. These picks are 0.5 millimeters thick and are 34 millimeters long, making them a versatile choice for most of the commercial locks that I'd certainly be coming across in the field here in the UK. The picks are finished to a high standard, and I know that this is because each of these units, which are part of a first limited run, have been modified and polished by Martin, which is testament for what a labour of love this project has been. Each of the picks is telescopically housed within the scales of the tool, and they're smoothly released using a detent button at the centre point, which then locks the profile in place, allowing for a stable picking experience. One of the design features I love about the pocket pick is the way that the two nested tension wrenches are held securely in place, because the key ring passes through a drilled hole at the bottom end, so that this must be removed before they and the picks can be accessed. An earlier iteration of the pocket pick was actually designed to house 8 picks, but it was soon agreed that the consequent bulk would detract from the practicality of the tool, and so they settled on a streamlined 4-pick model. And the 4-pick profiles are described by Martin as progressive, the first being a straight probe, which is ideal for counting the number of pins at play, for example. At its opposite end is a shallow hook, then a medium hook, and finally a deeper hook, which makes up the 4th position. Martin and I talked at length about this choice of profile, and he concedes that for future iterations of this tool he might replace one of the hooks with a rake of some kind, which would broaden its functionality further still. Nonetheless, the current design offers plenty of versatility, and one of the clever features of this detent access is that you can switch from, say, a shallow to a deep hook using just one hand while maintaining tension control with the other. The only thing that I think I would modify on this model might be the length of the head on the longer wrench, which sticks out a little proud of the pick scales and tends to catch on the lining of my pockets. But that having been said, I'm going to hold off on doing this until I can determine how much functionality would be lost in doing so, because it would be easy enough to just add a little duct tape to the end of the unit instead. And talking of functionality, you must be wondering how effective this tool is. So let's put it to the test. Bear in mind that a tool is only going to be as good as the user on the other end, and I'm still a beginner, so I started by attempting to pick a few locks which I'm fairly comfortable with. The Master Lock 140 and another 40mm Master Lock I had on hand. Both of these opened fairly easily, and I was really impressed with how stable the pick felt in my hand. The feedback I received from the pins was nice and clear, and the tension wrenches showed no signs of bending out of shape, even when I applied strong pressure. I went on to pick a puck lock and my favourite beginner's lock, an Abis 6450, which is part of the Titanium range, and again the pocket pick delivered in spades. I did find the length of the head of the top of keyway wrench a little longer than I needed it to be, so I think I will file this down a little, but otherwise I was really impressed by the versatility and efficacy of this tool. As you may be aware, I'm a big fan of the Chris Capoon universal tension wrench design, which is almost exclusively what I now use when picking. So if I were to create a bespoke version of the pocket pick for me, I'd look to switch out the current tension wrenches for two of those with different thicknesses. But what Martin and John have provided here work just fine. When I moved on to the 410 Lotto, or Lockout Tagout by Master Lock, I made good use of the ability to switch from one profile to another because of the challenging bitting in this particular lock, and again I secured several opens. Frustratingly, the quickest and best open happened when I failed to hit record on my camera, which I suppose is the equivalent of the fisherman's protestations of the big one that got away, but it was one of the fastest opens I've ever achieved with this style of lock. Honest. I did find myself wishing I had a rake, as Martin mentioned, because I have several locks like the Master Lock No. 3 and some of the S&L range, which I can't single pin pick, and it would have been comforting to have an L rake or a Bogota on hand, but otherwise I found this robust, and in the hands of a more experienced picker I'm sure it would prove an even more effective in-the-field problem solver. After 2 hours of picking, the pick profile showed no sign of wear or distortion, despite me being purposefully heavy-handed at times. The grip and balance of the tool meant that I had no hand fatigue, and the telescopic detent design remained smooth and reliable. So I can wholeheartedly recommend this first iteration of the pocket pick. As I mentioned, Martin and John have a limited number of these tools available, and I suspect it will quickly become a collector's item in the locksport community. So if you are considering picking one up, then I'd encourage you to reach out to Martin directly via his email address, sherlock349@yahoo.co.uk, and do it sooner rather than later to express your interest. I hope it goes without saying that this is an unsolicited review, and I appreciate that Martin encouraged me to be entirely honest in my comments. The fact that I am so effusive in my praise merely reflects the quality of the design, and while this review copy was gifted to me, I believe that the price point is just a little above the manufacturing costs involved in bringing the pocket pick to market, which speaks to Martin and John's integrity and motivations, which are not profit driven. Thanks for watching. Please do leave a like if you've enjoyed this episode. I look forward to reading your comments on this particular project. And until next time, take good care.